Welcome, everybody.
What's up, Bird Shuffle?
D.E.C.
That was my Fool in the Rain shuffle, because Rick, we were having this discussion before we got started on the greatest halftime shuffle ever. And so we all had our opinions. Hello, everybody. I am Bart Robley. Welcome to Drummers Education Connection. I'm here with three of my great friends and amazing drummers down below me in Tucson, Arizona. Chip Ritter, the man, the myth, the legend. In San Diego, Rick Stojak. Give us an electronic drum, Rick. Give us a bing, ba-ding, ba-ding, bing, boom. Oh, his sound is not on. Your sound is not on. You are muted. Yep, nope. He's muted. Anyway, and then we got Jeremy Steinkohler. The steamroller. Rick, you are 100% muted. If you can hear me, we can't hear anything from you. So hit the unmute button. Anyway, welcome to Drummers Education Connection. We are live without a net here on deck. And today we are talking about something that was actually inspired by one of my students. We're calling the episode Drum Lessons, Life Lessons, and Personal Growth. And so that's what today's topic is about and what we're going to talk about. But before we get started, one of the things that we've been doing in the show lately is we have been doing a little plug for Patreon. If you want to help DEC keep the lights on and keep things going, the comments. You can go down to the comments and go to Patreon, and you can donate to Drummers Education Connection. It helps us pay for the website and web hosting and StreamYard, and it's going to help Rick pay for a new unmute button on his end. So his unmute button will work.
Get stuff if you become a Patreon donator. It's not just to help us. You also, there's stuff that we're giving away, books and videos and other stuff. So check it out.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff. A dream date with Chip Ritter, all this fantastic stuff. And then we have another thing that we do that we call it. If you win the dream date with Chip Ritter, hey man, he'll supersize it, fillet of fish, whatever you want.
You can get fries and everything.
You get fries, a large Coke, the whole deal, man. That's
absolutely.
Somebody's in already.
Somebody's in. I don't know who it is. Chip, you're in charge of that. So anyway, that's the Patreon thing. And then we have another thing that we do. Who is it?
Brian Hayes, the drummer from Podunk from Texas, an amazing player.
Awesome. All
right, Brian, it's in. The bromance has begun.
Awesome, man. And then so the next thing that we got is we got this thing called Good Things. And the Good Things is just stuff that we have going on in our lives that we're doing musically, sometimes not musically, that are good things and that you can check out from each one of us individually from DEC. So I'm going to throw the first one. I was going to throw it to Rick, but I don't know if he's got his unmute.
Well, can you hear me?
It's working.
Yay,
it's working.
Back.
All right. Well, there's my good thing. I'll cut right there and that my mute button works. And there's my. Can you hear that?
Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
Wait, then give us a little electronics, man. Come on, let's hear it.
The Blue Man. Nice.
Ooh, China boy. Okay, so there's your good thing. You got that going on. Okay, Jeremy, what's your good thing, my friend? What's your good thing?
Things going on, y'all. I just had knee surgery yesterday, and it went like a dream. And I'm already, I can play the drums today. I sat down at my kit this morning. I could play without any discomfort. I got no pain, walking without crutches. It was just kind of a clean up some loose cartilage stuff, and it went perfectly. So
nice.
About as good a result I could have hoped for. So I'm super happy about that.
Awesome.
And just wrapped up just before that 6 gigs in the last 10 days. So was feeling really good about that and psyched to be able to get back to it, lickety split, and having to wait 4 to 6 weeks. I should be back. I got a gig in 2 weeks and I'm 100% for it. So very psyched.
Excellent. Chip, what about you, my friend? What do you got going on that's a good thing, my man?
Man, I just finished playing a couple shows with Lisa Otey and the Desert Divas out here in Tucson, and we had 2 sold-out nights.
Awesome.
And it was a standing ovation at the end of the show, and it couldn't have gone better.
Beautiful.
Fantastic, man. That's
Bart, what
great.
good things you got?
You know, I got a new song that we're in the middle of production right now on The Ruins, and it's a very famous cover tune. I'm not going to tell you what it is until we get a little bit closer.
Oh,
but
man.
I'm producing it, but I did not play drums on it. One of our former guests, punk legend drummer Dusty Watson, is playing drums on it. I'm going to play
Okay.
percussion, and we're putting it out under the Ruins banner, and it's gonna
What is-
rip.
What does that say about you? About what a tremendous,
Humility.
humble person that Bart is. That he would hire a different drummer to play on a song on his brand and his album that he's throwing out there. Man, I just love that.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
man.
thanks. Well, Dusty, just so you guys know, a little plug for Dusty. Dusty is an amazing human being in the first place. He's just a dear friend of mine. And I'll be honest, when I got the demo to record the drums to, I was like, oh, I already asked Dusty to play, and I want to play this song so bad. But Dusty's such a great guy, and I really wanted to promote him. He's getting he's in the band right now. He's the drummer for Nashville Pussy. He's been in the Sonics. He's been in Dick Dale's band. I mean, he's playing with everybody, and just what a great guy. And I really wanted to get him on one of my songs. So it's actually a legend. It's so nice to produce a legend. I mean, come on, it's just great. So I got that, and then I discovered that I'm pretty darn good at making salsa, and I love making beef jerky. So I got some. I've been making beef jerky, and it's been kicking butt, man. I mean, if you like spicy beef jerky, I'm thinking about starting a side hustle called Bart's Beef.
Okay,
Man, you got my
Oh.
And I'm serious about this.
Oh.
that's going to be a new segment on our show,
Oh.
Bart's Beef. Where
Bart's Beef.
Oh man.
where it's like the thing you got stuck in your craw. This is Bart's Beef.
Bart's Beef. You sons of bitches.
Oh,
Bart, you
man.
got to bring up your beef jerky to the next deck day, and
I will. I
Yeah.
will definitely bring up some of Bart's Beef for the next deck day. We're getting to that band's heading out on the road again this week, and we're playing Thursday up in Bakersfield. So I got a batch that's in cooking right now. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Brian wants to know if you're shipping to Texas.
I'm shipping. Hey, you know what? We're shipping worldwide. Okay. It's a small
Oh,
company.
yeah.
Yes, I will ship to Texas. I am serious about thinking about starting this side hustle. It actually, the first batch that I made, I've made it for a while, but this last batch was good, and then I made another one. I was like, wow, I didn't luck out. It's just as good. You
Bart,
know?
you should make the logo of your Bart's Beef packages just you going like this.
Well, I'd have a pair of sticks in one hand. I'd be like this, Bart's Beef. All right, enough of that. Enough of
I love
that.
it.
So
Sorry.
today's show was actually inspired by one of my students, Selena Choi. Selena is just an amazing drummer and a great person, and it's fantastic to be her teacher. And she just kind of came to me at the beginning of her drumming career, and she wanted to learn how to play. And so we started lessons, and within a few months she was playing a few songs. My first song I always go to for teaching and reading, the two go hand in hand, is Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Green Day. And then from there we did, Back in Black and kind of your standard rock tunes. And then she wanted to learn Sweet Child of Mine. We did that. And then she got into learning how to swing, and she really enjoyed it, but she's a metalhead. So we went right into Long Live Rock and Roll. And now she's enjoying all the success, and she's threw her hat into the ring for Hit Like a Girl. And it really got me to thinking about not only her musical journey, but she sent me a video of her speaking at a podcast at her work, right? And she's talking about what it is that she does for a living. And she was so articulate, and she was so well spoken. And she sent it to me going, hey, check this out. And she thought that a lot of the reasons that she was good at this was because of her drum lessons.
Ah.
And that made me feel really good. And
Yeah.
because her drum lessons helped her in another area of life. And so I think we see that a lot as drum teachers, and I have a lot of students that come to me, and by no means do I think I'm a therapist. I think of myself more as a drumming and maybe a life coach. I don't know. But I do get a lot of people saying, hey, today's a therapy thing, and they'll talk for a half an hour, and then we'll drum for a half an hour. And that happens a lot. And I've had a lot of other drum teachers tell me the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's our job sometimes to be inspirational and to help students not only learn about quarter notes and paradiddles, but kind of learn about how to adapt this stuff here, the drums that are right here in front of me, to other areas of life. And all three of you guys are so good at that. And my buddy down in San Diego, the positive energy hand grenade, Rick Stojak, is really good at that. So I'm throwing it to him first. Rick, give me an example. Give me an example. What am I talking about? Why am I rambling?
Well, I think we have a very important job of making a positive influence on people. And that is a beautiful thing. And honestly, that can be one of the most satisfying things that a human can do, is influence someone else in a positive way. And I would say drum teaching can be incredibly fulfilling. And I also find that, Bart, that people come in and say, this is the best part of my week. It's like a therapy session. And I actually try to read the students. I chat with them a little bit before we get started and see where they're at. Because sometimes people just need to come in and jam for an hour and just work on groove. That they're not in a place where they're going to mentally, they're going to work on some sort of tricky quarter note triplet against a shuffle in the right hand. You know, it's just too much. So I think just having a good experience is just so vital. And being able to provide that is just really, really essential. And so I would not be jealous if I was a drummer thinking that, oh man, I'm not fulfilled unless I'm a rock star playing in some major band. Teaching is so fulfilling. It's so satisfying, and making that connection with people is just a beautiful thing. But it all comes down to, like, what you wanted to call the topic of this was personal growth.
Right.
So we all have to evolve ourselves to be able to grow personally, and then to be able to share that with other people. So what I like to do is I like to ask questions, and I find that that's how I make connections with people. And that's how I grow, because I don't see that enough out there, you know, and just helping people come out of their shell and just ask them important questions. You know, if you ask a person a question that's important to them, they just kind of want to talk, and then they can, like, let out their story, you know, and it has to be, you know, it shows that you're sincere if you're asking a question that's relative, you know, like, you know, what do you do for work? Oh, what do you love about your work? What don't you like about your work? Right. What's your favorite thing to do? Oh, baseball. Well, what do you love about baseball? You know, and just let people speak. But the great thing about that is when they're speaking and they're talking to you and telling you their story, you're growing, you're learning from them. And that helps us evolve. If we're just on a screen all day and we're not communicating with people, we're kind of stuck. We've got to reach out to people and try to connect to people. And it's a complex dynamic to work on personal growth. But I think that personal growth is what fuels the planet. And its cousin is spiritual growth. And trying to evolve ourselves is that might be what we're here for.
I like that. It's cousin is spiritual growth. I like that. That's cool.
Thanks, man.
Nice. Yeah.
So what about you guys?
Very well said.
Thanks, man.
I'll jump in, I guess. I've found that some of the most meaningful lessons that I've ever had, both as a student and certainly as a teacher, have been ones where there was a lot more talking than there was playing.
Yeah.
Personal growth, you can feel like, you worked on your double paradiddles and got them faster, even in the course of 5 minutes. And hey, that's personal growth. You can put that in the bank. And that's so important. I mean, just the skill development and making you feel like work put in is results come out. That's beautiful. But, you can get that anywhere, and you can get that, with self-discipline and with a good teacher. But, I find that the most meaningful lessons, the ones that I remember the most, are the ones where there was some kind of, we hit on something together, in our discussion about drumming or something related to drumming. It could be life related to drumming or some insight that drumming, elucidated in some other aspect of their lives. But but often it's about drumming, and it's some kind of conceptual thing. And I find that, like, having been playing, I mean, I'm 52 and I've been playing since I was 10, and, started playing professionally, right out of college. So I've got a lot of years and a lot of life experiences around music that I share in stories that I tell, things that have happened to me on gigs, or things that have happened to me in bands or at auditions or things like that, that I feel like there's always like a message that's deeper than just the music that I took away from those experiences that I'm sharing with my students. And then, like Rick was saying, I in turn learn from them, because that'll often, spark something that they'll tell me about some experience they had, and that will validate, what I'm telling them, or help them look at something in some different way. So, I mean, storytelling, that's a piece of it, right?
Right.
I think lessons from a great teacher come from a place of been there, done that,
Yeah.
and having spent 23 years in the Sam Morrison band and traveled, all over the planet, all over the globe. I haven't been worldwide, but we've been in a lot of places. I've learned from that.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was John Riley that said some drummers can really play, some drummers can really teach. Take lessons from somebody that does both. And I want to think that I can do that, and hold my own. And I also think that that the lessons that I've learned on the road, and it can be little things, right? Bring sunscreen, whatever. That was one of the things that I did on that last tour that I did when I was doing those live videos. It was just like, hey, I found myself in this situation today. Check it out. Here's where I'm at. And this is what I had to think through to get through the gig at Soundcheck today. So I think sharing those stories, as you said, Jeremy, is incredibly important, because it's the story in lies the lesson.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
If I may, if you'll indulge me, I'll share one story that I put in my book. And really, my book, Finding the Groove, is kind of, it's really stories, right? I mean, it's just about things that I've learned that I wish I knew when I was a younger drummer. Thanks, Rick. I had a gig one time at a fancy hotel here in Berkeley, and it was a jazz gig, and they, I'd sent them my CD of my quartet, and they hired us, and we got the gig. And this is in the 90s, early 90s, when jump swing was like sort of super resurgence in popularity, and people were dancing all over the place at these swing band shows. And we're playing, and there's a couple there, not a lot of people in the club, but there's a couple there that wants to dance. They want to swing dance, and they keep asking us if we play swing, and can you play a swing tune? And I started getting more and more nervous and anxious, like, it's not really our thing. We're more of a modern jazz quartet, original music and stuff. And so I started calling tunes to try to appease them. We're trying to swing on, C jam blues, or things that are like very sort of jumpy. And, they were unsatisfied with what they were getting, and they kept kind of asking for something that we weren't. And we took a break, and I went outside, and my head was spinning, and I was just thinking about, oh man, this is the wrong gig. This is a terrible gig. We're not the right band for this. And then I caught myself in that loop, that spiral of negativity. And I was like, wow, if I keep going down this path, this is just going to be a miserable gig. It's been a miserable gig so far. I'm going to think nothing but what a crappy gig this was, wrong band, wrong venue, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, you know what? That's bullshit. Like, they hired us for the club based on the music we sent. They want us to be who we are at this gig, right? And if that's, maybe Wednesdays is jump swing night and Thursdays is jazz night or whatever. Right. And I went back in, I said, you know what? We're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to be us. We're going to play my music that I'd written. And the couple left because it wasn't their jam. And everyone else that was there loved it. They had a great time. They were clapping after every tune. People came up to me afterwards, said how great the band was. And it was just a really, really great reminder that you gotta be who you are. That you're not going to please everyone. You're not going to appeal to everyone, and you don't want to try and be something you're not, because then you're not even enjoying what you're doing. And what are you doing it for?
Right. Yeah.
So that's a story I tell to my students a lot of times, when they come back from, gig horror stories, when they come back, no, I played this week, or my band played last week, and, people wanted something different. I said, hey, you know what? You guys are you, and that's what you're there to do. And if that's not the right gig, then you won't do it again.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head with something really important in this day and age. With all the social media, we're always comparing ourselves to other people. Like, we should be that person. We should play like this. We should play that style.
Right.
And really, you have to find what your niche is and be yourself, and love yourself and accept yourself, and go with it. And then you're going to be sincere, because if you're trying to be something fake, it's not going to work out.
Right. And I think that's one of the keys to success. Think about all the bands that we love, the drummers that we love, and the bands that we like, who did something different, who stayed true to their vision and who they were. Remember that story about Freddie Mercury with Bohemian Rhapsody? And they were like, no, there's no way this is going to be commercially successful. This is this weird, crazy opera song. Like, no one's going to listen to this. It's 5 minutes long. And of course, look what happened, so you just gotta, as much as you can, stay true to your vision.
That's it.
You do. I think you really do. Now, what about you, Chip? Chip, what about you? What do you think about this whole thing as far as personal growth, whether it be with yourself or with the student, or how do you, work that into your daily,
Well, for me, it depends on each student, because each of them is different. Each of them have different goals and aspirations. And as a teacher, my job is to find out what that spark is for them, and to blow it into a flame, and to really kind of, bolster it and enhance it. And, one of my students recently was struggling because he's in high school and they've got the jazz band or his mock trial, and he couldn't do both. And he had to pick, and he was conflicted because he really wanted to do the jazz band, but he had so much fun in the mock trial thing. So I sat him aside and we took a few minutes out of our lesson, and I made him write up a pros and cons list of each decision, and to just really sit there and think about, if I stay with the mock trial, what are the pros? What are the cons? If I join the jazz band, what are the pros? What are the cons? And he took his time and he wrote out the list, and it was amazing. You know what I mean? His decision was obvious after he got done the exercise. And, I was explaining to him about how if you get your thoughts out on paper, it's a great way to conceptualize what you're trying to think about and to solve problems with yourself. Oh, it's a great way to communicate with yourself, to write on paper. And that's, that has nothing to do with drums, but it was a part of his personal growth and my way as a teacher, as a guide. You know what I mean? Not to do the digging for him, but to shine a light so he can see where he's going.
Right. Well, that's you're acting like a mentor.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that.
And with younger students, you change lives. As a drum teacher, we change lives, and it's important to remember for me to get back out of myself and stop thinking so much. As sometimes when I first started teaching, I immediately assumed that every drum student wanted to be a drum ninja Olympic athlete, the best in the world. You know what I mean? BPMs and metronomes all day long, and speed, and and it's like, I've learned to step back a little bit and find out what is it that they want, what is it that's going to light them up, and where are they going? What do they want to get out of this?
Right.
And it's a little ego deflation to realize that not all my drum students want to juggle sticks. It's like, in fact, that I don't teach stick tricks. A lot of people don't realize that because of my juggling online and everything, it's like, dude, I don't teach stick tricks at all. I rarely even talk about it.
Right.
But it's an honor to be in somebody's life in that way, to have an impact on them and to guide them.
Yeah, man. You very well said, Chip. That's really beautiful. I really like what you said about sizing up each student for the person that they are, and figuring out what is going to get them turned on for their own journey, for their own personal growth. And how can you as a teacher be of best and most effective service to them in that goal?
Yeah. You know, by the way, Rick has sent me a list of personal growth books. It didn't let me post the picture in the comments, but if you go to the deck page on Facebook, I've posted that picture from Rick about these personal growth books that you can get that can enlighten your life.
Yeah, Chip, thanks for doing that. In my volume 1 book, I have my resource guide, which of course has resources as far as drumming goes. But towards the end, I made a chapter or a category on personal growth, a career and motivation, history and reference. So you know, we all just have to learn from one another. And so if you don't have time to read books, make the time to read books. But at least right now we have all of these audio books available to us. So I my wife and I listen to Audible all the time. And so we're always talking, we're always listening to a book, and then it gives us something cool to talk about that we can grow from. And
That's
it's
awesome.
amazing how much from these audiobooks we're able to communicate, and how it helps us out to connect. I'm just grateful for it too. And so there's one that I really, really like that we've been listening to lately. It's Jill Bolte Taylor, called The Whole Brain Living. And she talks about the 4 quadrants of our brain, our 4 different characters. You know, we've all heard about the left brain and the right brain.
Right.
And she breaks it into these 4 characters. The character 1 is very analytical. The character 2 is that's the one that tells you all of that stuff that you don't want to listen to. And it's amazing how much we focus on negative things, and we reinforce it, and we reinforce it, and we got to be right about that one. And the negative speak that we have is unbelievable. That chatter, and we've got to let it go. We've got to work with it. And so she outlines that. And the character 3 is the happy-go-lucky person, and the character 4 is that it's going to be okay, kind of spiritual Zen in us all, whatever it is, that nature person. And so it's a fascinating read, and you'll find everybody I know who's read it has said, oh, I'm very much a character 2, or I'm very much a character 3. And so maybe we could have a little misunderstanding and say, oh man, I think that's my character 2 talking.
Yeah.
Rick, you should put the title of that book in the comments for everyone to see.
Yeah, I would like that. And one of the things that I noticed about, during deck days, Rick, when we all went out to dinner after the gig, and we were sitting there having dinner, and Leah and I sat across from you and Julia, and it was amazing to me, this positive energy that you guys put off. And also it was a little bit deeper than, it was kind of like you're saying with that book. It was, I specifically remember this because the 3 of us ordered the same thing. We all had a veggie burger. Yeah. And it was great. And Julia was so excited. She's like, this veggie burger is rocking. And I don't know why I remember that. I just do. And it was such a positive thing, and it was very cool. And I think that listening to that part of yourself, like just being excited about your meal, can be such a great thing. And I think we carry that into being a drum teacher, getting excited about, Back in Black, for the millionth time or whatever, getting excited about a simple drum groove, getting excited about, man, I can barely hold on to this groove and I'm trying to teach it, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that those things carry in and carry across the student.
How powerful that is, about your excitement about one of your students doing something well.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And there, like Chip said, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the student. It's about taking something and mentoring them through it, and it could be, Back in Black, or it could be Boulevard of Broken Dreams. As I had mentioned, those are my first go-tos that I teach, Michelle by the Beatles. And I've taught them for years and years and years. I've been in the situation where you're with a drum teacher and they're teaching you a song that they've been teaching forever. And you can tell, that maybe they're burned out on it. And I kind of hold on to that thing. Like, I don't want to do that. I still, every time I hear Back in Black to this day, bam, I immediately go back to being 12 years old and going, oh my God, what is that? And I always want to take that into the lesson, and I want the student to take that out of the lesson. And so I think that, that excitement that you talked about there, Jeremy, that, it's important to have that, because that carries across into the lesson. That carries across over. I mean, right now, we're not in the same room. We're spread out all over the place on the internet, but it's being conveyed through our excitement. I think.
Yes.
There's a moment with some younger students I have. It is always just like blesses my heart and makes me feel fulfilled when they're trying to learn they got the drum groove going and they're playing along with the song for the very first time, that they're able to really keep time, and the corner of their mouth kind of pulls up a little bit and they start smiling unconsciously. I think that's one of the most beautiful moments in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you could just see the stress melt away.
Yeah, totally. It just takes it away. One of the things too that I want to throw out there, and this is on topic and maybe a bit of a side note, but I would be remiss if I didn't throw it out there. I think that as a teacher and as a mentor to students, you got to kind of also remind them not to wait, to go ahead and jump in and go for it. Especially where you're scared, or in all aspects of life. Maybe it's a performance thing. Maybe it's a, getting out there and playing live thing and being nervous. Right. Yes. And I want to circle back around to that, but here's a place where I waited and I kind of wished I wouldn't have. And I want to mention this person's name. I've had the great opportunity, as all four of us have, to study with some of the greatest drum teachers in the world. And, one of the greatest drum teachers I ever had, I put him like at the top of the list, honestly, was Ralph Humphrey. And we just lost him a couple weeks ago. It was actually last week. And there has been, over the last 2 years of, 108, how many shows are we in, Jeremy?
121 today.
Oh God, 121. 121 shows. Over the years that we've been doing this, I have so many times just like, I got to reach out to Ralph. I got to get him on the show. And it slipped through my fingers and we can't do it. So don't wait. If you're wanting to do something and you want to learn, the part in Tom Sawyer where it goes da 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 da. If you want to do that, do it. Don't wait.
Sorry, I had to.
Sorry. You know what? I saw the big red Rick button and I just pushed it right there. It's right over here. Oh, you want to get Rick to play? Hey, that part in Tom Sawyer where it's in 7/8. Go. Rick will play the drums.
I've got a red phone that's got a single button and it sits under a glass thing. I just pull up, I press the button, and I get
Rick Stojak, I'm bummed out. Help me. Awesome.
Of course you know. There it is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So anyway, I think don't wait. I think jump in. Chip, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I'm going to throw you the ball, and then I want to tell a little story that we talked about before the show started, and that is, I'll tell my Roy story. Speaking of stories, but I want to hear your story. You were talking about like before a performance and being a little bit, little bit
Yeah.
nervous. Yeah, talk about that. And because I think that's
Well,
inspirational and huge growth for students. Huge.
Yeah.
I had a show recently with Lisa Otey and the Desert Divas coming up, 2 sold out shows, and I was preparing for them, and I had this kind of nervousness about it, this apprehension, and I remember thinking, you know, to myself, is like, is that ever going to go away? And the answer is, I don't want it to go away because it's there to keep me on my toes. A little bit of butterflies, a little bit of nervousness is good, you know, and a good friend of mine once told me, he's like, what fun is it? What kind of adventure doesn't have a couple sea monsters? You know, there should be a little bit of fear and anxiety in you to know that you're alive and you're moving forward outside of your comfort zone. So it's a good thing to have that.
Does it have to be sea monsters?
No.
Okay.
But that's just an example.
Okay.
Pirates too, right?
Pterodactyls.
Yeah, if you're a pirate, there's no fun without a sea monster.
Yeah,
Could it be Darth
Yeah.
Vader?
Could be.
Could be.
Could
yeah.
be.
I
Rick,
think,
or
I think
go ahead.
life is all about experiences, and that's
Yeah.
how we're going to grow. So we've got to go out there and get it. So anybody who's studying anything, I applaud you, whether it's drum lessons or
Mhm.
going and learn how to dance or karate.
Mhm.
That's gonna evolve us. And I think a lot of times people get shy because they're worried how well they're going to do or what people are going to think of them.
Right.
And it's just so satisfying to start playing with other musicians. So go out there and just start jamming. The world needs music.
Yeah,
And-
let go of the results and just show up.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't
exactly.
focus on the results, focus
Right.
on the work.
Process
you
over
know.
product. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Process
don't focus
over
on the
product.
other
That's good.
people. And by the way, I voted for Selena and her age group in the Hit Like a Girl contest. Congratulations on to her for competing. And
Yeah.
I thought she did a great job, and Bart, great job teaching her.
Thanks,
For how
man.
long she's been playing, that was amazing. And
She did great on that, man. She
yeah,
just
she
was
did
so
great.
good. I was so
Well,
proud
you
of
know
her.
what? You say something important there that's easy to miss, Rick. For how long she's been playing, she did amazing, right? And it's
Right.
so easy, especially in this day of social media, when you can see 5-year-olds, you know, playing Tom Sawyer, you
Yeah.
know, and shredding, to be like, oh, you know, why bother? I'm a beginner. I'm no good. Look at all these amazing drummers on the web that I can't compete with. But every drummer, every amazing drummer, the best drummers in the world, all started as beginners.
Yep.
They didn't know how to play at one point. They were terrible at one point. We
Yep.
all start out the same. It's a blank slate.
I tell my students that all the
There's no-
time. I go, think about it. You know, like we've been talking about Neil Peart today. So, you know, Neil Peart, at one point in his life, it's really hard to imagine this, but at one point in his life, he was really terrible at playing the drums, right? And he went on to be Neil Peart. You know, you nailed it. We're all a blank slate. You know, I want to circle back around to this because, again, just talking about stories and stuff, to what I asked Chip and what Chip said, and I really want to echo that. I was talking to the late Roy Burns one time, and Roy was such a wellspring of knowledge, and his presence was important when you were around him. He was just a great guy. And one time, you know, he started talking to me about drum clinics, and I was saying to him, you know, that I was getting ready for a clinic and I was really nervous. You know, whenever you play a drum clinic, you're playing drums in a room full of drummers. And he goes, that's why I quit playing drum clinics. That's why I just quit. And I go, what's that? He goes, I wasn't nervous anymore. Because I was sitting backstage at a clinic and I wasn't warming up. I didn't grab a pair of sticks, anything. I just went out there and started playing, and I realized it was time for me to hang it up. Well, a lot of people would think, well, you're a professional. You're not supposed to get nervous, you know? And he goes, and I said something to that effect. He goes, no. He goes, I've been playing my whole life. And he goes, as soon as I kind of realized that I wasn't nervous anymore, it kind of told me that I didn't care as much. And so it was just time for me to not do clinics anymore and pass the baton on. He goes, I always think you should be a little bit nervous and have a little bit of anxiety, and it keeps you on your toes, as Chip said, and it keeps you sharp. And I think that's important. You know, I do. I think it's really important to be sharp. I think it's really important to have that nervousness, because it really helps you kind of, you know, be on your toes. So anyway, that's my Roy story.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
you know, I think you're on to something, because a little bit of healthy stress that's not prolonged actually can motivate us to some degree. Just like a workout, you know, if you're working out, you're raising your blood pressure, your cortisol is going up. A lot of not great things are actually happening, but that is how our muscles grow. And I believe, for one, that emotionally we can grow a little bit from a little bit of pain and experience. And I think they kind of correlate to some degree.
Yeah. You know, I feel like whenever I have that feeling of, and it might not be related to drumming or gigging, in other aspects of my life, when I'm doing something that makes me a little bit nervous or I'm a little bit anxious about, I usually think of that as a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
well, this is an opportunity for growth. This is not me just comfort zone, easy cruising. This is like, here's something new that I'm going to put myself out there and make myself vulnerable for. Right. And I think that's an important word, vulnerability, that a lot of this stuff comes back to. A lot of my students are most anxious about being vulnerable, whether it's even just in front of me, which of course and they know I have no, value judgments about their playing. I'm just here to support and help. But nonetheless, they're performing even in their lesson for somebody else. It's different from practicing at home. Let alone being on stage with a band, which is like the next step, right?
I think we've all been there. I mean, we've all taken drum lessons, and I know for me, every time I've taken a drum lesson, I'm nervous to play in front of my drum teacher, Yeah. And I mean, we've all been there. And I think that shows how much you care about what it is that you're doing, but it is important, like you said, Jeremy, I think to let the student realize that there is no value judgment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that nervousness, and you can kind of find a way to not let it cripple you. And I think therein is a good lesson, don't you?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Joe Parisi said, joking aside, Jeremy is a beautiful teacher. Oh. My most valuable lesson was a day I came in with anxiety and frustration, and he scrapped the entire lesson we had for that day and just had me play, which I had never done. It was frightening, but in the end, so freeing and important in that moment in time. He sensed that and did not follow a script, and it was brilliant.
Oh,
yeah.
I remember that lesson.
Done.
That was a really good one. And that was a lesson where Joe was, Joe had never, Joe is a really good student, a really, really good student, a really good practicer, very disciplined, very self-motivated, and really good at doing what I asked of him to do. And also sometimes, at that point, he had never just kind of let loose and just let me work on improvising in front of somebody else anyways, right?
Yes.
And that was, I definitely feel like that was a turning point for Joe. So I appreciate that, man.
Good stuff.
Love you, brother.
That's awesome.
That's good stuff.
That's really cool. Hey, so on that note, because that is a huge personal growth thing, Jeremy, what do you, in a situation like that with Joe, what did you say? I mean, is it play the drums? I mean, what did you do? What did you say to him? How'd you approach that? I love that.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was I could tell that he was in his head, and there was all sorts of those we talked about earlier today, negative thoughts and self-criticism and judgment. He said, shut
up and play, you loser.
Yeah, I just said, hey.
Can I sign up for a couple lessons? That'd be freaking awesome, man.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, I know I have that. I mean, Joe is like me in that he's very analytical and very thoughtful, and sometimes that's really great. And like, I love being able to break down grooves and think about them and talk about what's motivating the drummer and why did he put the bass drum here and why did he play this fill here, talk about how the drumming fits the music and dissect it like that. And then a lot of times, sometimes, too much analysis gets in the way.
Right.
And too much.
Oh
thinking,
yeah.
too much thinking about stuff is not helpful. You just have to like get into it and immerse yourself into the feeling of the groove, right?
Yes.
And I think that was a time when Joe was, he had Joe, like I said, a hard worker as a student. He's got all this stuff available to him that he's practiced. He's got a massive, file full of things he can do, but at the time, not as comfortable drawing on that file and just letting it loose without being told what to do, or reading a book, or reading a groove, or a transcription, right? And I think that's sometimes a thing that I run into. I have some students in the past who they're really good at playing exercises, they're really good at reading charts, and they're not as comfortable improvising or just laying it down and just drawing on what they know and gaining confidence in their instincts. And that, I think, is one of the most critical pieces of being a good drummer, is confidence and good instincts, right?
Yeah.
Confidence in your instincts, I should say.
Yeah.
And that only comes from trying. You have to, the first time you do it, you're jumping into the black abyss. Like, what do you mean just play? I don't know what to play.
Yep.
What if it's not right? What if it doesn't sound good? What if it's not the part on the record? Well, we don't care about any of those things, of course, right? You just got to sit down and just play. Here, start playing a beat. And then I put on some music. And then I change, and then a couple of minutes later, we change the tune. Okay. Try a different beat. What do you think of to play when you hear this one?
Yeah.
And then sometimes we'll get into, and I actually do this, not just with Joe, I do this with students every so often, where they'll come in and maybe they haven't practiced, or maybe want to shift gears, and we'll just do an entire lesson of playing with songs they've never heard before. And I'll
that's cool.
Yeah. I'll go through my library and I'll say, okay, here's the deal. You have 15 seconds or so to listen to this tune and get what get the vibe of it, and then you've got to play. And I don't care what you play. It doesn't have to match the record. We don't care about the arrangement. We don't care if you miss the stops or the hits. What does your instinct tell you to play for this groove based on what you're hearing?
I love that.
And then we talk about it, and then I make suggestions. Oh, tighten your hi-hat, add a couple of bass drums, or whatever. We listen. It's all about listening. Yeah.
Tommy Igo talks about that in Groove Essentials. He talks about how if a student asks him, well, what do I do, for a drum fill, or what do I do when I get to the break on the song? And his answer is, I don't know. We'll see when you get there. And I love that, because you have that's instinct right there, not knowing what you're going to do. And like you said, jumping into the black abyss and yet still doing it. And I think that's a good, way to teach people not to panic as well, because there's a lot of times when things go weird on stage or in a recording session, and don't panic, just keep going, just keep moving forward. And I think that's a great lesson. I do. Yeah. Rick, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Well, I got to do a very quick shameless self-promotion, because if you want to learn or teach this way, that's exactly what my book series is. How
it is. It is. I second that.
Yep.
Rick's whole approach, if I may, Rick.
Yes, please.
Excuse me.
Learning by playing, learning by participating, not by analyzing, not by reading. Well, you have to do some of that, and you have to read, obviously, but learn the groove, play songs. Rick has you playing songs right from the get-go, and just feeling what it feels like to groove, and then developing the technique, building on that, as opposed to the other way around.
That's right. I'll give you a drum beat, and then I find a song that uses that drum beat through the whole song. So you can just work on your pocket, you can work on your groove, and there's over 300 songs in each book.
And as you know, you don't need a ton of grooves. You don't need a ton of vocabulary to be able to play hundreds of songs.
Right.
You don't. I've said that so many times to students, right? Especially if we're at the beginning stages of jazz, right? I'll tell them, look, that'll get you through 100 songs. Right there.
Yeah.
It will. Think about it. It'll get you through so many tunes, right?
Yes.
And and so Rick, your approach is second to none, and your book series is fantastic.
Well, and let's
Chip, you're back.
We missed you, Chip.
Where'd you go? What happened?
I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, everybody started spinning, and they kicked me off.
And you were hurling into the sun, but you look good. You're not sunburned or anything.
It's a good thing we're anointed with this technology to keep.
Oh,
us
no.
all
Right.
together.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What were you going to say,
back.
Jeremy?
Sorry, I wanted to double back on what we're just talking about for a sec, because it's really easy, I think, for drummers and even drum teachers sometimes to sort of put the cart before the horse in terms of learning, every which variation and permutation of grooves, and to develop this massive vocabulary before you even learn to apply it. And I've come across some drummers who have plenty of chops, plenty of vocabulary, but not a really great groove, not a really great pocket.
Right.
Conversely, I know some drummers, beginners, who have only been playing for a little while, but they can play a handful of beats only, but they can play them really, really well, and they can play them great. And it's like, hey, you can make a living playing in a country band or what have you, playing simple stuff. So it's really easy because there's infinite stuff out there to learn and practice, and all the books and all the videos. And it's easy to get caught up thinking, oh, I'm, just scratching the surface. I'll never get anywhere with it because there's so much stuff. It's overwhelming. But you can go narrow and deep and be a employable and really good player. I know I have friends who are really good drummers, and they can't do a ton of stuff. They don't have massive technique, but they're really good groovers, and that's why they play in bands.
Absolutely. I want to do a shout out to my student Nikki, who also was in the Hit Like a Girl contest.
Oh, awesome!
Nikki was in the 40 up age group, and so check out her video. And she is doing exactly what Jeremy's talking about. She submitted a track where she's just playing a 4-on-the-4 with a backbeat. It's straight up, but the feel is so good. The pocket is so right there. And Nikki does play in different bands around town and makes a little money as a player, and it's very exciting to see. And she was
good for you, Nikki.
Voted 5th, I guess, by the viewers of Hit Like a Girl. So I don't think she was in the top 3 for the judging, but I think maybe the judges were looking for some fancy pants drumming. And I'm like, nope, she's playing for the band.
Hey, you know what? I got to say this, and this is going to echo a little bit of what Jeremy just said and what you just said, Rick, and about fancy pants drumming. I like that. I think that we can, like we've said a couple of times today, we compare ourselves to other people on social media and this and that, and well, gosh, that the so and so has this great push pull technique in their left hand, and I got to have that to be able to play, and I got to have all these chops, and I got to play paradiddles at 8 billion miles an hour, and know every drum groove known to mankind, And it's not about that. It is about the groove. I've never, ever, ever once had a bass player say to me, man, your left hand is killer. Your technique is fantastic. Your groove sucks, but that technique, you're doing good. We're going to keep working with you. It doesn't happen, man. They could care. The band, when you're on the bandstand, they don't care about your technique. Somebody may notice it if it enhances what you're doing. And I can give for instances of that, but they don't care. They want you to groove. They want you to lock in, groove, time, and feel, the 3 most important things to drumming. And you don't have to have, a 4 on the floor. Come on, man. I made a lot of money doing that. We all have,
Yes.
And that's, there's nothing better. That works in so many songs, right? So important. So important. Be the best that you can be. I'm not saying don't have chops. I'm not saying don't work to get better at your chops. I'm saying use what you have the best you can.
Right.
Be the best you can be at that moment.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Well said.
Very important. Very important stuff. Okay. We got just a few minutes left here.
What?
So, this show is flying by.
Yeah.
So real quick, each one of you, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to start down there with the positive energy hand grenade. Rick Stojak, one piece of information that you could give anybody listening that is inspirational, that is educational, and will help them have personal growth. What would it be?
Stop breathe, and be the greatest version of yourself in every aspect of your life.
Oh, I love that. Chip, you're up. What would you tell
I would
people?
say write down your goals. Write them down on paper. Dream as big as you can and write it out. And then take another piece of paper and say what would need to happen to have this become true, and start brainstorming and writing out ideas of things that you can do to achieve your goals. It's one of the biggest, most powerful things that ever happened and that was taught to me.
Awesome. Jeremy, you're up.
What was the question again?
What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody watching or a drum student that would be educational and motivational for them to move forward in their personal growth?
I think I would say I would encourage you to remember to enjoy the process, because the process is really all we have.
Right.
And so you can enjoy it no matter where you're at. First drum lesson, first day, learning that first beat, that can be as exciting as anything. Fast forward 15 years and you're working on this, the halftime funk shuffle in Rosanna, and you're nailing that, and that can be the best day of your drumming life too. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up thinking that you're going to arrive at some point, that you'll arrive somewhere that will then be satisfying. If I can only do this, then I'll be there. Then I'll have made it. If I'm not, and it reaches up to the professional level. If I can only get the tour, if I can only get the endorsement, if I can only be on the cover of Modern Drummer, whatever, but there is none of those are outward things. You need to sort of search for that validation and that enjoyment inwardly, I think. And, just enjoy wherever you're at, and that'll just make it all feel worthwhile all the way through.
Good stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to echo that and answer my own question and say the same thing, and teach from the place of, I was the opposite of that for a long time. I was the person that, I'm a go-getter. I want to think, I go and I get stuff done, and that's who I am. It's in my nature. But I enjoyed the fruits of my labor, but not like I do now. I really have slowed down a lot, and I enjoy stuff more. So much so that, I could tell that people around me at times were like, dude, relax, enjoy this stuff. Don't try so hard, know? And so now, and it was just what you said, Jeremy. It was, I gotta have the next hit record. I gotta make $1 billion. I gotta have a tour, but all that stuff. And it's just like, all that just doesn't matter. What matters is what you said. I absolutely love just playing Back in Black, and I've played it since I was 12 years old, and I still love it. And I think that's the same thing that I try to teach my students. So yeah.
Very
awesome.
Cool.
Great job. Great episode, you guys.
Yes. Jeremy,
That's
congratulations on your knee. I'm so happy you're not in pain, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yes.
guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We had a really nice crowd today also. And
We
thanks for the
did.
comments.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
We don't know what's up next week. We do know that we will be here, and we do know that we will be talking about drums. Or something to do with drums. Other than that, actually, I've got a couple of people. I got the feelers out there right now, trying to get a couple people on the show for next week. We'll as soon as I have an announcement of who's going to be on, we will post it. Rick is going to be sending me some stuff. If you're one of our students, please watch our personal websites, and please watch the D.E.C website. We've been celebrating our students and putting little plaques up there, with the name and what they've done. And so if you're one of our students, chances are pretty good that you might get one of your faces up there. And Saturday morning, I'm going to be doing a drum lesson from right here live on Facebook. I'm going to do it the first Saturday of every month, doing a quick live 5-minute little quick lesson. I'm going to do it on my site. Then I'm going to jump over to the D.E.C site and do it there. It'll be a lot of fun. So tune in. I'm not sure what time I'm going to do it yet. I'm totally shooting from the hip. That's what drumming is about. That's what today's show is about. Rick, play those drums. Play us out of here, brother. We got places to be.
See you next week.
See you, everybody.